Hey guys, Spudknocker here, as always, and today I'm joined by my friend Carter, who's been a long-time viewer, and he's flown a bunch of my missions, and he does some live streaming of DCS himself, and today we're here to give you guys some tips and tricks for formation flying. Now, this is going to be very basic stuff. We're not going to go deep into different kinds of tactical formations and flying in formations in combat, but more or less how to get into formation, stay in formation, and some tips and tricks on how to get there. So it's not going to be that super in-depth, but it should help you guys out if you're having a little bit of trouble. So, Carter, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, my name's Carter Lule. I stream on Twitch like Spud said. I've been a long-time viewer of his channel. Puts out excellent content. And when he asked me to help him out with this video, I couldn't say no, so.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, dude. And of course, we'll have a link to his Twitch account down there in the description, so make sure you check him out and give him a view. So, we're here at Al Dhafra, and we're set up to do a bit of a kind of a tour of the Abu Dhabi, Dubai area. We got a nice kind of triangle flight plan set out for us. We're going to fly out to over Abu Dhabi and then out into the water, link up with a tanker, and then come on back in towards Dubai and land at Al Minhad Air Base, hopefully all in formation. And hopefully it'll go well and smoothly, and we can get you guys some good tips and tricks, as well as have a nice discussion on the way there about how we get into formation, how we stay in formation, all this good stuff. So why don't we go ahead and make sure we get our tanker TACAN loaded up before we get started here. So that's going to be on 12 X-ray. And then we've also got some loadouts on our jets here to be interesting, make it a little more interesting. We've got a bit of an asymmetrical loadout. We've got GBU-16 on our right-hand side, 2 bags, a lightning pod on the center line, and an AGM-65E on the left-hand outboard station, just to make things a little bit more interesting in terms of the flying and the behavior of the jet. So it'll be a little bit heavier and be a little bit asymmetrical in terms of the loadout. So for asymmetrical loadouts, I like to have the ADI up on one of my DDIs instead of the HUD repeater, but that's just a personal preference. You can really do whatever you want in that facet, as well as having the HSI up on the right-hand, or sorry, the FCS page up on the right-hand side as usual, and of course the HSI down in the middle on the MPCD. And I think I'm ready to taxi whenever you are, Carter.
Absolutely. Let's get rolling.
Alrighty, so why don't you go ahead and go for it, and I'll be right behind you.
Cool.
One thing to also make sure we have turned on that will really help when we comes to finding each other if we get separated from our formation is making sure we have the data link turned on, so that way we can use the SA page to very easily find each other.
Especially in a little fur ball, it absolutely helps.
Oh, for sure. Definitely don't want to shoot down your wingman or your leader.
Alright, we're going to go ahead and start here.
So we've already briefed our taxi. We've pretty much briefed the route. We're going to fly out to waypoint 1, which is on the same runway heading as the runway 13 left we're taking off on. And then we'll make roughly about 350 degree turn to our left, off towards, fly out towards the coast by Abu Dhabi, and then out there. We'll cruise at about 18,000 feet at about 350 knots indicated. So we're not being too fancy here or anything like that, just showing off our own special techniques as to how to get into formation and stay there. I tend to find that if you're relaxed, you're comfortable, you're having fun, it's much easier than if you're tense, gripping the stick with a death grip and all that. That just makes it much harder. Growing up playing baseball, I was always told that relaxed muscles are fast muscles and precise muscles, and I believe that applies to flying airplanes just as much as it applies to swinging a baseball bat or throwing a baseball. is having those relaxed muscles, your arms and your hands are relaxed, means you're going to be precise and smooth in your movements when flying the jet.
Alright, let's say we got received takeoff clients here from tower.
Alright.
Go ahead and be lining up on the right-hand side of the runway due to wind.
Alright, can you go ahead and explain why you're going to line up on the right-hand side?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the reason why I'm lining up on the right-hand side of the runway is because we got wind coming from, I believe it was 283, as was briefed, which means it's coming from the east. The reason why I'm lining up on the right, like I said, is since that wind's coming from the east, it's going to be blowing me to the right. If I was to line up on the left-hand side, and let's say we were to hit one sheer pocket of turbulent air from an aircraft that took off before me, I could hit that air as soon as we take off and slam or shoot right over into my wingman as soon as we take off. So to eliminate that threat, we're going to go ahead and take off on the right-hand side of the runway, so that if that was to happen, Spud's offset back here to my left-hand side, so if he was to hit that when we take off, he'd be shooting off right behind me instead of into me. So
exactly, that's the plan. And just to sum that up, make it a little bit simpler for you guys, is basically the wind is going to be pushing Carter to the right-hand side, so he's going to be on the right-hand side so that he doesn't get pushed into me, is basically a little way to summarize that. So I'm set and I'm ready to go whenever you're ready to go, and since you're the leader, you go ahead and call it.
cool. Alright, looking good over there. Alright, we're
All
going
right.
to set the brakes. We're up to 80%.
Alright.
And full AB, here we roll.
And rotating.
Rotate. What's the rear climb gears coming up? And flaps up.
Flaps up.
Afterburner.
Copy. And I'm going to go ahead and slide gently over to my right-hand side to come up on Carter's right-hand side. And we can feel a little bit of his wake turbulence there, but nothing too harsh. What's your speed, Carter?
350 indicated.
Copy.
I'll go ahead and give you a little.
I'm coming up on you.
Cool. We're gonna go ahead and make a right-hand turn here for you, so the sun is no factor.
Copy that.
Alrighty, coming right.
Okay, coming right. So when my leader turns into me like this, and I'm coming to the right as Carter's coming to the right, I'm going to go ahead and let my altitude drop so that I don't get into the same plane as him and risk potentially running into him. Whereas if I was on the outside of the turn, I would increase my altitude to stay in the same position.
Looking good.
Roger. And I'm adjusting my position with bank, roll, adjustments to my throttle, popping the speed brakes at times, all these kinds of things. Alright. Alright, it looks like we're rolled out.
Go ahead and pitch up so we can go ahead and get up to 18,000 here. As lead, one thing that fighter pilots do, you know, like in the real life, they just go ahead and kick it into mill up until their cruise altitude using their stick forward and aft to modulate their airspeed. So if you're getting a little slow, go ahead and pitch down. If you're getting a little fast, go ahead and pitch up.
Yep.
Helps the wingman out as well.
And I would say that if you're going to be learning how to fly a formation here in DCS World, definitely start off in either the F-18 or the Mirage 2000, two jets that have a very robust fly-by-wire system that are incredibly stable and very easy to control. And then once you're good and solid there, then move up to like a harder airplane to fly, like maybe a World War II Warbird or an F-14 Tomcat. And the F-14 has its own challenges with not only being more difficult to control in almost every part of the flight regimen, but also having very limited forward visibility by the large canopy bows and the canopy structure to it. So that's also something to keep in mind as well. And I'm just making very small, very smooth, easy corrections here. Nothing too drastic. And Carter's being a very good, stable flight lead for me, which is very helpful. And when you're flying lead, especially with guys who are just learning how to fly formation, it's very important that if you're going to make a turn, especially a sharp turn, that you let them know with enough forewarning that they can time it and stay in formation with you as you fly through that turn. Another thing that really helped me get good at formation flying is rather than simply relying on the airspeed that you and the lead agreed on or that you briefed prior to flying the mission, is to make sure you just keep your eyeballs on him and fly with your eyeballs rather than just keeping an eye and trusting that airspeed. Because as we can see here, we're a bit above that 350 knots that we agreed upon, and but I'm still able to hold formation just because I'm keeping my eyes on Carter the whole time.
Another point I'd like to bring out as well is once you get up and close with them, using little to no rudder as possible. The only time you use rudder is, for example, on the ground taxiing, taking off, landing, and or hooking up to the tanker.
Exactly. I'm just using very small bank changes to slide in and out, a little closer, a little farther away, whatever the correction needs to be, rather than using my rudders too much. And of course, being a wingman is a lot of work. You gotta really be on the ball, working your throttle, working your stick, working the rudders, and it's a lot more work than being the flight lead. So you just gotta be ready for that work and try and do your absolute best. Are we getting positive navigation of that tanker?
Yes, we are. Looks like he's about 367.
Copy.
A little above the brief altitude here, but it's okay. We'll go and descend down to 18,000.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and pop that tack can in, so I might drift a little bit farther away while I pop that in, and then I'll close it back up once I get my avionics set up.
Cool.
So the tanker should be on 251.000.
Lead.
Alright, I've got navigation to the tanker. Looks like he's 41 miles out. And when you're just cruising around, you don't have to be in a tight parade formation or a tight finger four formation the entire time. You can loosen it up a little bit. That way you don't have to make quite as precise of corrections the whole time, and just make it a lot easier on yourself as a wingman. Of course, you have to get your lead's permission to do that, but that can really help. As well as a really good way for your wingman to conserve fuel, because you don't have to be making those constant throttle corrections all the time, like when you're up close to your lead, and so that will definitely save you a bunch of gas. Should be noted that the wingman will probably use about 20% more gas than the leader will use as a result of those corrections for any given distance.
Good little factor there. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you notice as you fly formation with different people. You tend to notice that you have roughly 20% less gas if you're the wingman, and 20% more gas if you're the lead. But that's just a very rule of thumb kind of rule. Some people are better at modulating the throttle, some people are worse, and so it really just comes down to practice.
Absolutely.
Which side of the tanker would you prefer?
Normally it's whoever has less fuel, so I'm gonna 12.9.
I'm at 12.8.
Alright, so go ahead and get the left side tanker, I'll make the right hand side.
Okay, so I'll talk to the tanker first. The distant sounds from the Hornet just sound really amazing. I love flying as the wingman with the F-18 because I can just listen to that those GEF 404s all day long.
They're absolutely beautiful.
Texaco, in field, 1-1, request rejoin. In field 1-1, Texaco, proceed to pre-contact at 18,000.
Alright, so I'm set up for the left-hand side.
Texaco, in field, 1-2, request rejoin. In field 1-2, Texaco, proceed to pre-contact at 18,000.
So we're looking over there to our east there, it's sun on the water. It's absolutely outstanding.
Oh yeah, that is a very nice picture. So I just took a peek at the F10 map, and it looks like the tanker is in the end of his orbit, in a left-hand orbit. He's turning around into us. So it looks like we may have to do like a teardrop pattern to get in behind him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a visual on the tanker. He's at our 10 o'clock low.
I'm blind.
He's about 4,000 feet below us. He's down at 18. He's pretty darn close now. He's within 4 miles.
Oh, tally. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and kick off my wingman to trail.
Copy. Coming in trail.
just go ahead and put my flight path marker just right on him or leading him. So that way I don't fall lag behind him. Right in the sun, hell yeah.
Oh yeah. I didn't even think about that when I set up his orbit.
No, you're good.
Looks like he's 2 miles out.
Cool. Alright, I'll go ahead and kick you off left line abreast so that way we can go ahead and hook up.
Copy. I'm in trail with you, just maybe about 1,000 yards.
Cool.
Coming through your 7 o'clock. I think our tanker is roughly about 350 knots ish.
Okay. Go ahead and put this in the middle. Go ahead and put my boom max. There's no other way I can get fuel.
That always helps.
Absolutely.
Getting some more really cool stock footage here for music videos.
Absolutely.
Whoop, sorry, I got a little close there.
No, you're fine there. You're gonna go ahead and I'll clear you left so you can go ahead and hook up with the drogue.
Copy. He's probably at about 320 indicated. I'm still closing on him.
Yep, same here. You kind of forget that he has freaking wake turbulence until you're in his wake turbulence and can't get out of it.
He's a big jet. It's definitely gonna make you drop a wing, that's for sure.
Ready, pre-contact. Return pre-contact.
And now we do the ready pre-contact dance.
Insert dramatic piano music. Of course.
Yep, there he goes.
Ready, pre-contact. Cleared contact.
Alright, I'm cleared contact. I'm gonna go ahead and hook up. You're cleared for the right-hand side.
Lead.
Ready, pre-contact. Return pre-contact.
Yeah, he's at like 300 knots indicated.
Contact. You're taking fuel. Ready, pre-contact.
Oop, lost it.
Ready, pre-contact. Cleared contact. Contact. You're taking fuel.
Gonna take more throttle than it looks like to keep in the basket.
Absolutely.
Looks like we're rolling out.
Contact. You're taking fuel.
I don't know about you, but I'm using a lot of my left-hand side of the stick here.
Oh yeah, me too.
Contact.
That was a beautiful look
You're
there.
taking fuel. Transfer complete.
Alright, I'm done.
Disconnect. Return pre-contact.
I'm gonna go ahead and slide over to your right.
Cool. Go ahead and finish getting a full load here.
Copy. Kick in some left trim.
Yeah.
You're taking fuel.
With this asymmetrical loadout, it sure makes it fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one key skill when it comes to air-to-air refueling, especially, and of course, formation flying, is knowing how to rock the throttles. And what I mean by that is, as we're flying in formation, whether we're tanking or we're just flying a very nice close formation with our leader or any other jet, if we need to increase our airspeed a little bit, we simply push the throttle up a little bit and then pull it right back to where we started from. So that way we don't keep on increasing the airspeed into infinity, I guess you could say, or until you run out of gas or whatever you want to say. And that way you just give yourself a little bump in airspeed without too much worry about getting too fast. And conversely, if you need to chop the throttle a little bit to lose a bit of airspeed, but not too much, you do the same thing but in reverse. Pull the throttle back a little bit, say pull it back all the way to idle for just a split second, and return the throttle right back to where it was when you first started. And that's a really, really good way to simply reduce speed just a little bit and return back to your previous configuration. Rather than, because like I said before, if you just pull your throttle back and leave it there, you'll just keep on decelerating and decelerating and decelerating, rather than simply just losing a little bit of airspeed and keep on going that way.
Absolutely.
So we got some nice little islands out in front of us. They belong to Iran, so we'll be careful with those.
Don't want to piss off the Iranians.
Nope, let's not do that today. That's not what this video is about.
Of course. Alright.
Yeah, see right there? That's a perfect example. Is Carter started to pull out in front of me. I'm already at military throttle, or military power. He's still pulling away from me, so I pop it into afterburner for just a split second, get a little bit of speed boost, and then pull it right back out of afterburner, back to full mil. And then there, as I get closer and closer, I'm just stroking the throttle back and then pushing it back to where I started from in order to just bleed off just a couple knots of airspeed. It's all about slow, smooth, and deliberate motions.
One thing too that will help is you don't want to constantly be going into afterburner or dragging it all the way down to 0% throttle, because that will give you incredible amounts of thrust in a very short amount of time. You won't realize until you're crashing into your wingman, which I have done plenty of times before. But even as a lead, you don't want to kick into afterburner, because it'll create a lot of unnecessary space between you and your wingman.
Exactly, and by what I was saying before, that was not what I was meaning as kick it into afterburner whenever you want to gain airspeed. You always want to make sure you're putting the throttle to where you need it to gain the airspeed you need or to lose the airspeed you need. So pulling the throttle all the way back to idle or all the way up into full afterburner is definitely not the answer to every single thing. As I'm flying here with Carter in formation, I'm moving the throttle almost the whole time, and if you listen closely to the engine sounds in the jet, you can hear my RPM changing. As well, if you look down at the IFE at the bottom of the screen, you can see my RPM changing almost constantly as I'm flying with Carter here, keeping a very pretty steady formation with him. I'm actually rather proud of myself on this flight.
You're looking good. We're going to go ahead and roll out here, hearing 155.
Copy that. What waypoint are we at? Or are we going towards?
I think we're currently going towards, I think it's 4.
Roger.
Yep, waypoint 4.
Okay, just had to get my system set up.
Yeah, bro. Got a little kicked out there for a sec because of the tanker, but
Yeah, that's all good.
I was being a lazy lead, and I put the throttle at about half and let my speed decline.
Exactly. So yeah, always, even if you're in the lead, you're always got to pay attention and always be making sure you're flying a good lead, making sure you're navigating correctly, making sure you're keeping an eye out for other flights in the area so that you don't want to lead your wingman into a midair or anything like that. Always have to be the eyes of the flight when you're in the lead position.
Yeah, absolutely. Your job is just to navigate and communicate. That's your sole job. As far as being a lead goes. On the level out here.
And we can see the beautiful Dubai coastline out in front of us.
Wanted to go see those palm trees in real life. That'd be quite a sight.
Yeah. There's a company called Skydive Dubai that is right on a little airstrip right at the base of the Big Palm Island, and they do skydiving all over the island.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, it'd be pretty incredible.
We'll see a couple.
Yep, just keep an eye out on the advisory frequency.
Exactly. It's a little fast there. We'll go ahead and kick the throttle back just a little bit. Go ahead and give my wingman a full warning.
Copy. And if you're flight lead, and things are overwhelming you, the amount of communicating and navigating you need to do, you can always just go ahead and pop in the auto throttles. There's no shame in that if you get a little overwhelmed, or even pop in the autopilot. That's what it's there for, is to help decrease the pilot workload.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and kick in that automatic throttle control and maintain heading.
Perfect.
Constantly finding myself trimming out as well.
Yep, with this asymmetrical loadout, just like in my asymmetrical loadout tutorial video, as we change airspeeds and altitudes and get into different air densities as we change altitudes, to give us different amounts of lift on our wings, and all these kinds of factors will cause us to need to retrim out almost constantly throughout the flight. Now, I have heard that the real F-18 and the real FCS in the F-18 does that roll trim for you automatically and will fly the jet perfectly straight and level even with a ridiculous asymmetrical loadout, but not sure why that's not modeled in DCS if that is true, but in either case, it's just what you got to do here in DCS.
So you want to turn a little bit early and go and get a view of Dubai and the palm tree?
Sure, why not?
Alright, I'm going to go ahead and kick it out left here.
Copy. Just taking a nice scenic tour of Dubai in formation. And as you can see here, just like we talked about earlier in the flight, when flight lead turned into us and I dropped my altitude, as he's turning away from me, I'm increasing my altitude to stay in the same spot. I'm also very much advancing my throttle in order to stay in that same spot because he's on the inside of the turn. He has less physical distance to travel in the turn than I do, being on the outside of the turn. So I have to increase my throttle to keep the same airspeed and fly the same course as my flight lead here. And just be advised, it's been a kind of a short flight, and we did tank, so we're going to have pretty heavy jets landing at El Minhad, especially with this ordnance. We may need to dump some gas.
Yeah, absolutely. out here, get a beautiful view of that Dubai coast.
Copy. Rolling out.
Absolutely outstanding.
Oh, yeah.
We got that harbor off to our right-hand side there.
Yep. DCS world can be quite stunningly beautiful at times, that's for sure.
Absolutely. You know, people, you know, say some maybe developers or some such like that, or you know, some developers or people who make aircraft aren't super detailed. But I'll tell you what, the maps, DD has put a lot of time and effort into these maps, making them look as realistic as possible. And I think they did an outstanding job.
Yeah, I mean, in DCS you've got helicopters and you've got fast jets, so like Wags always says in videos about maps, he always says, you know, we gotta make it perfect at 0 AGL and 60,000 AGL. So it's a whole bunch of effort for all these different flight levels.
Yeah, like you even pointed out in your Hind video, so, man, there's some stuff I've never seen down here before.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I'm always flying a fast jet up here where we are.
Oh yeah.
Just still making those very slight adjustments. Just being relaxed. We're having fun, we're having a nice conversation, being relaxed, fingertip pressure on the stick. Also, if you can just get your stick and throttle into just a very comfortable position that you can fly with. So I find that a throttle and stick sitting on a desk aren't the most comfortable to work with. I know that Carter has an interesting setup that he has his throttle and stick sitting on chairs off to the side of the chair he's sitting on. I have Fox mounts that have the stick right in the center between my legs like they would be in a real F-18. So the best way you can get comfortable and be comfortable flying the jet is probably the best thing that will help you out with flying in formation in DCS. And that also kind of makes it a little bit hard because there's not a one-size-fits-all answer like a real F-18 pilot would have, because every F-18 cockpit is more or less the same unless you get different production blocks and upgrades and things. But everything, the stick and the throttle are all in the same spot, but with DCS pilots with their home cockpits, things are always a little bit different.
Absolutely. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and dump fuel. I'm gonna set my bingo to about 8,000, so we can go ahead and set the dump fuel switch to on.
Copy that. Stand by. I'm going to do the same.
No, people, this isn't pesticides.
Chemtrails.
Chemtrails.
What's the fuel dump switch in the Hornet again? I'm spacing on it.
So just behind your throttle, to the right-hand side on that fuel panel, you got a big old dump switch there. It says on and off. Go ahead and flip that to the north position. You'll be good to go.
Oh, I got it.
It's a big-ass white streak behind your jet.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and set my bingo to 8,000.
Also, something to keep in mind is as I was looking around the cockpit there, oh, looks like your fuel dump just stopped, just so you know.
Bingo.
Oh, perfect. As I'm searching around the cockpit hunting for things, just like that, when I'm looking for the fuel dump switch and things, I can go ahead and use the mouse with my right hand and grab the stick with my left hand and just keep myself steady in the formation that way. So if you don't have the ability to take your hand off the stick, go ahead and don't be afraid to use your left hand. Just make sure you're ready to hop right back on that throttle in case you get a little bit fast like I did there. And we can see, of course, the beautiful Dubai coastline off to our right-hand side. My lead still there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm at 8,000 pounds.
Sorry about that. I had to take a call there for a second.
No problem.
Parks being a flight lead. Get to do what I want when I want. Alright. Cool. Alright, we're gonna go and start our descent down to Almond Hod.
Roger that.
I'm gonna go and roll out here. I'm gonna kick those throttles all the way back into our, just kick them all the way back, and then that way our wingman can go and use his air brake as needed, or speed brake as needed to go and modulate his airspeed.
Roger that. Something that also needs to factor in when you're flying formation, especially in that big long turn that we did there, is being able to innately match your bank angle with that of your lead. And so that way you know what he looks like when he's wings level, and you can know how to get wings level as easily and quickly as possible, or match his bank angle, just like right now, as has a very shallow right-hand bank, and I'm just trying to match him as much as I possibly can in order to stay in the same position. We're going to go ahead and fly a carrier brake at the runway.
Sure, why not?
Cool.
That way you can get nice up and close. Do a shit hot brake, pop a couple flares, be good to go.
Perfect. I gotta turn on my countermeasures to do that.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of exceeded his bank a little bit there, and that's kind of why I slid out away from him. But as I decrease my bank and go kind of wings level here, I can go ahead and kind of intercept his flight path and get a little bit closer. Now there are a heck of a lot of airports out here.
Absolutely.
By
Go ahead and maintain about, what was it, 095. And then that should put us for a 90-degree right-hand turn to Almond Hod for final on runway 27.
Copy that. Did you mean heading 195?
195, yes, I did mean 195.
Copy. Just popping my speed brake a little bit there. And now pushing the throttle up a little bit because I got a little too slow. So, even if you make a mistake, if you just correct for it right away, it's no problem. And like we were talking about earlier, it's these constant corrections that's what makes the wingman use a heck of a lot more gas than the leader.
I'm gonna go ahead and put my VDI up my right-hand side. My ADI on my VDI.
Copy. I'm going to do the same.
Actually, HSI is going up on the right-hand side. That's one thing too, as a wingman, go ahead and try to let your flight know what you're doing, maybe with your screens there, so they can go ahead and configure for landing, takeoff, etc., etc.
Copy.
Alright, we're starting our right-hand turn for final on runway 27 at Almond Hod.
Roger that. The Kuwaiti camouflage skin looks very cool. I will say that.
I think it looks very good as well.
It's very menacing looking.
Yeah, absolutely. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and start a little bit of a left-hand turn here.
All right.
I'll go ahead and let my wingman get up nice and close to me for the shit hot carrier brake.
Hell yeah. I'm gonna push it up to about 350 knots.
Oh yeah. I'm going full mill.
Full mill. Looks like we're gonna have to make a right-hand turn to get lined up with the runway.
Yes, sir. Fast in the brake, that's alright.
Yep. We'll go for a left-hand brake.
Cool. There, leads in the brake. See you.
See you on the ground. And 2's in the brake.
I've always had trouble with is getting that e-brake down to my flight director.
Yep. It can be a bit challenging. Just make sure you don't get too slow. If you get too slow, the Hornet likes to just fall like a rock right into the ground.
Absolutely.
And keep an eye on that for sure, because we are flying heavy jets at the moment. We still got ordnance on the jets, so and lots of fuel, so keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Another shot down, we're just a little bit there.
Alright, 2's turning base.
And touchdown.
Not sure why I'm getting so many deedles.
Neither am I. I had quite a few as well.
Two's on short final. Ooh, definitely overshot it as well. I think it's because of the crosswind. We've also got a bit of a tailwind for this landing.
Alright, I've indicated on Bravo and I'm gonna park in these hangars over here.
Copy. 2's down. Yeah, that landing would definitely not fly in the F-16.
Absolutely not. That's gonna be one plane people are gonna be having a lot of issues with, and I'm calling it right now. Especially for landers.
Oh yeah. People are used to slamming F-18s and F-14s on the runway and taxiing away just fine.
Yeah.
Oh, you said you turned off on Bravo?
On Bravo, it's way down to the runway.
Copy. Alright, passing Charlie.
And that canopy gets pressure.
Alright, I'm gonna do the same. Well, I think that went pretty darn well. It was a fun video to make. Shit didn't blow up, but hopefully with these tips and tricks it'll help you make other shit go blow up. Because you'll be able to stay with your wingman and your leader much better now, and be able to fight as a team a lot better. All these tips and tricks certainly apply to air-to-air refueling. The only difference is in air-to-air refueling, you just have to be in a very certain spot in order to get the probe into the basket. That's really the only difference between formation flying with another F-18 or another F-14 or whatever, and formation flying to get into the basket air-to-air refueling. So, any final thoughts, Carter?
I think that pretty much sums it up.
Cool. Well, thank you for flying with me, and definitely make sure you guys check out his Twitch in the link down in the description, and please give us a like and a subscribe for the Spud Knocker YouTube channel, and consider donating to the Patreon. If you donate more than $15, you get private lessons with Spud Knocker. That's me. And it definitely goes all the way back to helping support my channel and keep it going. So, thanks a lot, guys, and fly safe.